It is now an incendiary comment to say that there are only two genders. Now, this debate is complicated because there are honest people on the left side who will say the idea of gender is a social construct built around biological sex, meaning it is technically, mutable. That if it's something that we just developed over time, we can make gender norms whatever we want. Women don't need to wear dresses, men don't need to wear suits, etc. But then you start seeing the rise of Tumblr genders, where they literally just make up things and make no sense. Well, in response to this debate, we see a lot of people on the right saying there are only two genders. And this is coming from the perspective that gender and biological sex are intertwined completely. And so it is a complicated process. But no, I wouldn't say it's incendiary to make the claim there are only two, because most people in this country would agree with that assessment. Now, there are a lot of people who want to claim that there's a bunch of really weird stuff. There are people who claim that biological sex doesn't exist. I'm not exaggerating. That's true. There's a professor who was debating with Jordan Peterson who literally said, okay, that's where you get nuts. All right. But here's the thing. You want to say that it's incendiary to say there's only two genders? I'm not seeing it because I understand what someone means by that. But what about when Joe Biden says there are three genders? Okay. Now, this is a story from a couple weeks ago, and it's so incredibly wrong. Because here's the thing, even if you want to approach this from a left-wing perspective, there are either infinity genders, meaning there's none, or there are two, which is the right-wing side. But who said three? Joe Biden, who said there were three? Okay, but here's what's getting really crazy, I gotta admit. You can't assume the average person understands the argument you're making about gender, the social constructs around the idea of gender. You can't assume that. But MSNBC absolutely does, and treats it as though most Americans believe there are more than two genders. They don't. So let's read this story, and I got another really interesting post that I want to go through when talking about gender, and how this kind of rhetoric is being weaponized by the right to actually, look, I guess you can say it's not really being weaponized, but being highlighted so that moderates who are Democrats are going to be like, the left has gone crazy. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a bunch of ways you can contribute. The best thing you can do is subscribe, like, comment, interact, share the video to overcome that deranking. Also, school is starting, so everybody's taking a big hit right now. So, it is what it is. But here's the Washington Free Beacon. MSNBC calls Republicans' belief in only two genders incendiary. What world do you live on? They say, MSNBC anchor Chris Jansing referred to a Louisiana Republican's belief that there are only two genders as incendiary on Friday. Jansing and her panel addressed the GOP's relationship with women and the LGBT community in the aftermath of the Log Cabin Republicans, a national LGBT group, endorsing Donald Trump for a second term. We've got an important question now, Jansing told viewers. What does it mean to be a mainstream Republican? It is the question that some Republicans have been asking in the age of Donald Trump. And increasingly, it seems the answer might be to make incendiary comments about women and members of the LGBT community. Actually, Trump is the first president in U.S. history to support gay marriage before getting elected. Not even Obama. That's true. They say in Louisiana, the Republican candidate for governor, Ralph Abraham, is out with a new TV ad this week making incendiary comments about gender. Oh, heavens. Ralph Abraham, who is seeking the GOP nomination to challenge Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards, released a TV ad where he laid out a series of his conservative positions. Among them, his medical assertion there are only two genders. Here's the truth, he said. Life begins at conception, government is too big, our taxes are too high, and our car insurance is too expensive. President Trump is doing a great job. Facts matter more than feelings. The Second Amendment is self-explanatory. And as a doctor, I can assure you there are only two genders. I got into an argument with a guy recently about biological sex. Now listen, I understand the argument about gender and a social construct, but let's be real, biological sex is a thing. It exists in almost every single life. There's sexual, asexual, we get it. So I was talking to this guy and I said, listen, there are two biological sexes. And he got mad, started yelling at me, I kid you not. And he says, no, there's not. There's at least three. And I said, wait, three? What are you talking about three? The components of biological life as we know them today, it's a sperm and an egg. It's the sperm to fertilize the egg. I'm not a biologist, so I'm not going to get into great detail, but I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm wrong. My understanding is there are two components. Could you imagine if the sperm went to the egg and then you waited for another thing? I don't know what you'd call it. Maybe that's true. I'm not a scientist. I'll just say this. Based on my general understanding, there are two. I don't know why that's controversial. There's no third gender walking around. You know what I mean? Like, there are men and there are women. They both have two different types of genitalia and body and secondary sexual characteristics. There's no three. That's really weird, and it's getting really confusing that people like Joe Biden and the media is claiming there's more when there's not. There's not. But MSNBC says it's controversial. The notion that gender as opposed to sex exists on a spectrum has gained credence in recent years with progressives and many LGBT activists. Now, this is an idea that exists outside of biological sex, and I get it. I get it, right? But you have to understand we're in the territory now where even the left is acting like gender and sex are the same thing. They've totally walked away from the core of what the argument used to be, and now they're literally saying there are more than 3 biological sexes, and I'm just like, what? Some presidential candidates are even listing their preferred pronouns on their Twitter page. Elizabeth Warren, for instance, identified as a cisgender female with the pronouns she, hers. Cisgender refers to people identifying their gender with their birth sex. A transgender person, on the other hand, identifies as the opposite sex from which they were born. Well, hold on. If there's 3 genders, then what do you mean opposite? That makes no sense. You're incorrect. So I was talking to a more conservative-leaning trans individual, and I asked them about this. And I was told that they find it disconcerting there's all these different Tumblr genders because someone who is transgender is literally trying to be the other gender, right? So somebody who's born female and is a transgender male wants to transition to being, a man by taking hormones or getting surgery or something. If there were infinite genders, then what are they transitioning to? The other argument that's brought up often is if, what makes someone a man or a woman is a social construct, then why would someone need any treatment at all to be trans? They could literally, like a guy could literally put on a dress and claim he's a woman and wouldn't need any kind of treatment. All of this, it makes no sense. I have no idea what's going on anymore. So, we heard Biden. I don't even know where he gets that number from because in New York, there's 32 or 31 genders. I think it might be 32, maybe 31. I don't know. One of those. But so where did 3 come from? It's like, if you're going to pick a number, don't pick 3. It's like 3? Like, you guessing? But anyway, check this out. This is from a post on Reddit called r/social engineering. People think social engineering means like a government trying to manipulate the public. It mostly does not. Social engineering is like an individual manipulating the behaviors of another individual to like gain something or control them. It's human hacking. So you can technically refer to massive population manipulation as social engineering, but for the most part, it refers to how you convince an individual to do a thing. There's one really funny video they posted where these 2 guys say, if you're carrying a ladder, you can get in anywhere. And so they walk into like movie theaters and museums and people just open the door for, you got a ladder, you must be working, you let them in. They assume like you must be doing something. So you can carry a ladder. I always tell people carry a bag of ice with a rag in your back pocket and you'll get let in anywhere. You want to get into a bar or a club or a venue, you got a bag of ice over your shoulder and a rag in your pocket, excuse me. And if they try and stop you, be like, I'm working. And then walk past. Like, seriously, nobody will stop you. That's what social engineering usually refers to. But check this out. It's from 4chan. It says, if we spread this image and similar messages around the internet and claim how horrible it is that the majority of straight men will not date trans people, they say, why? To push normal moderates towards the right, to get the leftist onions thrall that shall pass for men to start dating trans women for our own amusement, watch the media further damage their credibility trying to defend this. And they say in the image, fight bigotry. 98% of straight men are unwilling to date trans women because of hatred. This has to change. It's actually true. This is not made up. Look at this from a year ago. Researchers asked cis people if they would date trans people. The results on this subject are bleak. What? Because they found that like 87 to 90% of people wouldn't date someone who's trans. Yeah, I have a preference. So do other straight men and other gay men and women and gay women. People have a sexual preference. How did we get from the point where we were telling people that you can, you're born that way. You were born gay. A man is attracted to a man, a woman is attracted to a woman. They were born that way. We must accept them. To now literally being like, it's bleak that straight men don't want to have a relationship with another biological male. And they argue, but a trans woman is a woman. Therefore, no, hold on. Like, do people realize that men and women smell different? And that some attraction is heavily predicated on smell? Now, it's true. they argue that a straight guy might see a trans woman who's very, very attractive in passing and then feel like tricked or trapped when they realize it's actually a biological male. You're not likely going to find most people, as they did, attracted to the same sex out of nowhere. It would be like telling a gay man he should date a biological woman, otherwise he's a bigot. It makes no sense. So this is where it's like everything breaks down, right? We're told throughout our whole lives we have to respect the LGBT community because they can't choose who they love. And I say, okay, like I agree with that. I know people who are, LGBT and all that. But now they're telling straight people they need to date the same sex. Otherwise, you're a bigot. So look, it's funny because this 4chan joke is trying to claim it's an operation, when in reality, you actually have Vice writing this article. The study on the subject is bleak. Bleak? Who cares? People love who they love. Isn't everything getting nuts? I'll tell you what, man. This is going to push moderates to the right. Hands down. Hands down. Anyway, I got a couple more segments coming up for you in a few minutes. Stick around, and I will see you all shortly.